Okay, sorry, I think this is recording. Little glare behind me over here with the light, so don't worry about focusing on me, but focusing more on my screen share. I hope all of you are doing well. I know finals is this week and next week. I really appreciate those of you who watched this this last webcast I have. This could be one of the most valuable things for you, and I'll share that with you this semester, or what this session. It's going to be very high level. I'm going to go fast. I'll put the materials up, but I really want to just introduce this topic to you and encourage you to take the things that the buzzwords and the key terms that you learn in this topic and to incorporate them in your resume, in your speech, in your marketing, in who you are. This topic is a topic that will talk more about how to become an empathetic marketer more than anyone else. Remember, that's what I told you is our ultimate goal is to have empathy as marketers. That will make us some of the best in the world. And you should start taking these terms, especially in this lecture here, and incorporate them in your resume. Hey, maybe even you change your resume completely to be a customer journey resume. It would be kind of fun to take that map and turn it into your resume or something like that. So thank you. I wish you the best of luck for this semester, for finishing this semester. I hope everyone's healthy and sane, and it looks like maybe we're starting to come out on the other side of this and things will go better. So I'm just going to jump in right now, go into this quickly, and again, I'll share some of the resources on Canvas with you going forward. I have up actually this NPS Net Promoter Score. Most of you have heard about this before. If you haven't, it's a really simple tool that companies use to identify how they're kind of doing, kind of give them a snapshot of how they're doing customer service or customer wise. Basically what they do is you have your detractors. So it's a simple question. It's just one question. How likely are you to recommend our business or service to someone else? They give you a score of 1 to 10, not likely to likely. And what it says is that anybody that scores you 1 to 6 are your detractors. Then anyone who scores you a 9 to 10 are your promoters. You take the 9s and 10s and however many of those you got, you subtract however many 1 through 6s you got, and that kind of gives you a score. And that score is then a benchmark that your business can use one way or another to decide, how you're functioning and how you're doing. Now, there's a lot of negative perception about NPS out there, especially if you talk to Dr. Huff. But there's something interesting that I want to share with you that came out from a study from MIT. And I'm going to just kind of highlight that with you right here and show you this, that here's some interesting stats. So let me make this bigger for you so you can kind of see it. So on average, 26 unhappy customers won't complain for every one that will. Interesting, right? But everyone that complains, it's really unhappy with you, that does complain, tells an average of 16 other people. So if you do some math here, what's that saying is, for every complaint that you hear because somebody's telling someone else about, that's an equivalent of 432 negative impressions on your business. So just one complaint really means a whole lot more than just one complaint, okay? 3 complaints you hear could be a potentially 1,300 people who are given a negative impression that maybe you don't find out about because they don't tell you, the company. They go tell their friends, but they don't come back and tell you about it, right? So there's many more people getting this negative perception about your product or service or you as a brand than you're getting feedback-wise, okay? You've heard this before already, that it's 7 times more expensive or more costly or more work to attract a new customer than to keep an old one. They say 91% of unhappy customers will never buy from you again. Seems to make sense, right? But here's what the study was really interesting. 82% of unhappy customers will buy if you make a focused effort to remedy their situation. So if we go back to NPS, what MIT has found is that these people who give you 7 and 8s are actually more telling you about them as a person than your service. And what they're telling you is that they are impassionate people. They're not really, motivated one way or another. But these people that give you this negative score and positive score, let's go actually to the negative, is that they are passionate people, and they can be just as passionately negative about your business as they can be positive. In other words, you can take your detractors, and if you will work with them, you can turn them into promoters for your business. And they'll promote nearly, if not as much, for your business if you can service them. So something to think about is take that negative that you're getting, work with that group, and turn them into brand ambassadors. Okay. So, and some of you may have that experience, right? You had a negative experience, but that company came back, took care of you, and now you love them, right? Well, that's a little segue into this concept that I want to talk about today called customer journey mapping. And I'm not going to do presenter mode. I'm just going to go quick through these. But I hope that by the end of this presentation, customer journey mapping or customer journeys is on your resume somewhere. It needs to be there. This is a buzzword. This is a trend. This is happening. The other words that should be there is maybe customer experience, user experience. We'll talk more about those in this presentation. But I've alluded to this customer journey mapping before. It's a new topic, but it takes a lot of the pieces of marketing that you already know, right? So it's not new in that sense, right? What does it take into account? It takes into, of course, the buyer journey, right? That the process that everybody goes through: needs recognition, searches information, alternatives, purchase, and then post-purchase behavior, right? You learn that in consumer behavior. But that's not the end of the journey anymore, right? It's much more in depth. There's more to this than just a few bubbles. There's more to what's happening, and of course, there's more on the other side of the issue. Okay, so just some interesting stats you can quickly look at. That we're searching, we're learning, we're doing more homework. You all know this. You are the consumer of today, right? That I don't think I need to convince you any more of that, right? But what's happening is with all of this push to online research and homework and learning, we're failing in marketing, right? Just that we are doing a poor job at really making the consumer believe that we understand them and where they're at in their journey. Okay? Interestingly enough, is it a pricing, right? Do people want cheaper, cheaper, and cheaper, and cheaper? Or is it more of a problem with your product? That basically this chart is showing you that as your product or service has more problems, the dissatisfaction with pricing increases accordingly. So if you just provide a really, really good product and experience, people will pay for it. People are not going to be so upset with what they're paying if they're having a good process or a good experience with your product, okay? Interestingly enough, it comes out, right? A lot of times was, well, it's more my employees' fault, or my employees are causing them to have a bad experience. That's not true. The employees are less relevant of an impact. Now, they're still relevant. We still want to have happy employees, but really the products and services that don't meet expectations, or there's a marketing problem or a broken process problem, that's more of what's causing people to be dissatisfied with products or services. I'm not going to go into this chart in too much depth. We don't have time, but this goes back to that, hey, if one person complains, what does it really mean? Well, this was done through a IHC type company, and it was millions of dollars are at risk when patients have bad experiences with doctors. Okay, excuse me, it's allergy season. The other, important thing research shows is that profits. We all know this. That customers become more valuable the more time that we have them as a customer. Obviously, not only because of what they spend, but also because of the frequency of how much they spend. It's cheaper of operating costs. We get referrals and word of mouth. We get ambassadors. We can start charging more, right? So more longevity of a customer, there's more that goes into that than just pricing in terms of value and services. Okay. I read in our 3600 McGraw-Hill book, I read something that I didn't believe. And to this day, it's true, and we researched it, is that just how much more profitable a company can become with just a 5% increase in customer retention, right? And so Bain & Capital and Gartner and Harvard did these researches and showed, that in these different industries, just a 5% increase in retention was a significant, I mean, nobody was lower than 20%. Many were between 20 and 40% increase in profits by just a 5% increase in retention. Reaffirming that value and that importance of that experience that customers are having with your product or service, right? I love this stat. 80% of customers surveyed said they offer superior customer service, but only 8% of their customers agreed with them. Disconnect. We believe we're great. Our customers, not so much. Right? Huge disconnect of where we're at, where the customer feels we're at. Okay. Most companies have fundamental gaps, right? So when you look at kind of what companies are doing today, look at this. Only 35% of customers surveyed bothered to thank new customers. How hard is that email, right? 90% of customers, staff who are responsible for taking customers could not articulate why the customers should buy from them. They didn't educate their own people who are on the front lines with them, okay? And on it goes. You can kind of look at all those. I can't go through all of them, but you can see that many companies are missing these opportunities, these touch points of improving the customer experience, okay? I'll go through, you can read through this next slide. Think like a customer, 10 rules for building customer relationships. You can kind of just go through those, give you a minute, pause, take a look at that, okay? So we start talking about customer journey, customer experience, life cycle. Excuse me for just a second. We have to start talking about more than just the purchasing cycle, right? We need to talk about other things that get involved, which is what happens after the purchase. What experience are they having? How do we get them to recommend? How do we get them to, how do we maintain them and grow them and use and receive and gain and experience and enjoy and talk about our product, right? And become ambassadors. And the word of mouth marketing, which is the holy grail of marketing, as I mentioned, is that this is what, you know, it doesn't cost us anything if we can get that experience to the point where people talk about this, okay? So, but this isn't all about touchy-feely, right? When we do customer journey mapping, we have to align that experience with our objectives, okay? Not every company wants to spend a fortune in creating a better customer experience because they're low price, and that's acceptable. So we don't always just talk about customer experience and customer needs. We want to align it with business objectives, which is what this slide is showing you, is that, hey, you know, we want to have insights, impact, issues, and innovate, right? These are the things that matter, that tie in the customer needs with what we're trying to do as a company and connect them together to create higher revenues and higher profits by having a better experience with. And this is kind of what CX, CX, which is consumer experience, right? CX is another word you might have on your resume, or consumer experience is things that people are caring a lot about. You're looking at marketing titles going away and very more specific of consumer experience manager or customer journey manager. You know, these type of terminologies need to start kind of becoming part of your speech, becoming part of your resume, becoming part of who you are, because this is the things that are getting talked about and looked at, okay? So when we talk about customer journey map, which kind of branches all of this in together, right? We focus in on a specific customer, we depict a goal that they're trying to achieve, and then we try to get as much data as we can to map out that experience, okay? So user experience, right? So how do we do that? Well, who are our customers? What are their goals? We do user research. How can our best support them? We do personas. What workflows and contacts must we support? Context, that's our maps. How does our product match their needs? That's through the creation of the product. How do we know that they really want it and use it? We iterate, okay? And speaking of iterating and prototyping, we've got a course that talks more about how to do these type of things that we're talking about. It's the product management course. It was launched this semester. There's a little plug for it. It's $459. If you're still around and need an elective, it's being offered in the fall. I think it's Tuesday nights, taught by industry professionals. Really valuable in that sense that you got to build a network around. Anyway, and then of course usability testing. Do that too. Is again making sure that the experience is the way that we intended it to be. Okay. All of these things on this slide, great buzzwords: personas, user research, iteration, prototyping, usability testing. Great words to be familiar with, to understand, to be able to say a thing or two about. Really, really important in marketing today, okay? I want to talk about buyer personas just to tell you how much we're lacking in doing them right and in educating you right. And I believe we're working on that as one of our weaknesses in our program, is to do a better job teaching you how to do buyer personas. And my digital capstone and my marketing management capstone classes get hit on this really hard, because typically we see something like you're seeing in the slide here in terms of what we tell you is acceptable for a buyer persona. Is that, it's, here's owner Owen, right? He's a business owner. His challenges is that he wants to make money. Well, no kidding. Generate new sales, keep the business running, right? This is a good example of what we usually see back in education when we talk about buyer personas. What's really missing, and I can't go into too much detail, is the purpose and goal of a buyer persona is when we go back to that empathy. It is understanding the deepest, darkest secrets, motivators, pains, frustrations, feelings, and joys, excitements that people have. Right? Feeling, because remember, people make decisions by how they feel, not by logic. Right? So that's why we do them. And it doesn't happen in the classroom. It doesn't happen through web searches. It happens through engaging with the conversations and asking the questions and all these type of things. Well, I don't have time to get into that. Maybe you build a buyer persona more like the one on the screen now, where, let me zoom in on this for you, right? So you can see, okay, the experience she wants, her values and goals, her problems she's having, right? One day in the life of, her main sources and watering holes of information, her most common objections, right? This is a buyer persona that we can start to take and do some actionable intelligence around, okay? So we'll go back to that later, but understand that a real buyer persona that's taken research and conversations and qualitative and quantitative information to build this, that's what we're doing in industry, okay? Let's pop this back up. So now we're gonna map it out. So we're gonna grab the buyer persona, we're gonna grab some scenarios, usual actual experiences, we're gonna map this out, and we're gonna create a story, right? We're gonna create a story around kind of what this person's experiencing and what's happening, okay? So journey maps, by definition, are diagrams that visualize the actions, thoughts, and feelings of a person or group over time. That's what we're trying to do, okay? Why do we care about their thoughts and feelings? Because that's what motivates them. That's what makes their decisions, right? If they're having a bad experience, they're going to be motivated to leave our product or service, right? Does that mean that we can eliminate bad experiences? No. You ever buy a car or have to buy a home, right? There are some tough moments in that process, but understanding those will help us mitigate, adjust, plan, put them in the right sequence, things like that. Okay? So visualize over time, okay? So just a couple examples. This is one, for example, somebody setting up a LinkedIn account, right? This is one LinkedIn did. So they tagged their map here more an emotional experience. So it was easy. What kind of, like this mapping out is kind of how they're feeling during those moments that they're going through login, registration, getting it set up, populating, right? So right, you can see actual quotes. I'm definitely not going to fill out all the information because it's too tedious, right? We feel that way, right? It's too much. It's intrusive, right? Those type of things. So they actually map out this experience. Well, how do we get more people into it, right? Another example, okay, this one was not just mapping out their experience, but kind of actual moments, right? Here's how they're feeling: aspirational, overwhelmed, right? How the questions they're having, okay? So I think I got another one. Yeah. So here's another example of a map, right? Here's the smiley faces showing how they're feeling during the process, what's happening, identification, looking for information, finding information, seeking help. Are they getting what they need? Okay. So they visualize, right? It's a visual, right? We love visual, okay, over time. It's actions, thoughts, and feelings, right? We go back to that. So here's another example, right? Here's smiley faces, unhappy faces, okay? What actions they're taking. So here's like a process of a student, okay? Oh, I think we went through this in class. If not, I don't have time for it, but you can go to this YouTube and watch. This is Daniel Kahneman. Remember about the experience, our remembering self and our experience self are two different selves, right? That we can make the experience horrifically longer as long as we end on a good point. We don't remember the length of a bad experience. So this really helps us, his research really helps us design a customer journey map that is attractive to people. So, okay. So creating, how do you get started, right? So collect insights, develop a hypothesis, do some research, analyze, map it, okay? I know this was fast, but I want to show you a couple of cool things. And I'll post this slide, you can use it, right? A great tool out there called Uxpressia, uxpressia.com, has some free templates. This is a good example. So they got this cool free template. You come in, helps you fill out customer journey or the buyer persona first. Okay, you fill out your buyer persona. You got your persona. You bring in your persona, and now you can start very easily mapping out their feelings. Oh, this is acceptance or anger or pensive, right? So you can actually start mapping out very easily, adding or subtracting from this map. It's a template. I was an early beta user of this. They've given me free access for my classes going forward, so I hope to incorporate this more. All my students can get access to it during the classroom. I think the accounts that you can create still offer some free tools, but a really neat map, and it's already there, makes you look really cool, really quick as you say, hey, we need to map out our customer journey in the companies that you work for, okay? Something else I wanted to show you is I want to show you this, an example of this in action. I think it's here, okay? Yeah, so let me show you this. So here's this engineer, develops the most incredible life-saving product, an MRI machine, right? And just amazing tool, right? So, but let's talk about the different users, okay? So here you have Sophia. She needs an MRI, unfortunately, and she's got to come use this machine. Now, Sophia's not the buyer, but she's the user, okay? Does this user, Sophia, impact our business as a hospital to use this machine? Well, let's look at this, okay? So, okay, so she checks in. How does Sophia, who's going to use the machine, not buy it, use it, impact our business? Well, she's really nervous, looks scary, hurt me, mom can't help, right? And starts screaming, right? Anybody who has a child understands this kind of process the kid goes through. Maybe they go to the dentist or go to the MRI, go to the doctor. This is what happens, right? So this is what happens with the behaviors, with what she has to get done, okay? That what kind of impact does this have? Well, look at this impact screen, right? So if you look at this, okay, this will it hurt me and starts to scream and resist, right? Now this is imaging time that we're losing. More staff have to come in and console her, and we got 3 people worried about this. And then we got to maybe drug her, and then all the side effects of that, right? There is a lot of impact on just this point of that journey that Sophia is having. And it's not impact just on her, it's impact on mom, it's impact on the hospital, it's impact on finances. So this is where we're tying business initiatives with customer journey, right? This is where we can say, oh man, there's a huge cost here. Can we do something about it at this moment, right? Well, what does she need, right? Well, she needs to have a scan. We got to have that done. But emotionally, she needs to feel safe, right? So these are the 2 needs that are in conflict at this moment, okay? But if we can solve those, think how much savings we could have, business impact. So let's look at her needs, right? So now we're gonna go back into Sophia. What does she need? Well, she wants to feel safe. Well, what does she like to do? She likes to go to school, she likes to color, she likes to go camping. This is what things kids like to do. She wants to feel safe. Oh, well, she likes to go camping, and lots of kids like to be camping with mom and dad. They love the outdoors, they love the wild, right? They love nature. So what do? Oh, we take our MRI machine and we turn it into a camping experience. So now Sophia feels safe. She comes in, oh man, I'm out camping, I'm with these, no problem. I'm gonna take a little nap, go into the machine, great, right? And now all of a sudden, she's, she gets a backpack, she's friendly, she loves camping, the experience goes much faster. We don't have to do any of this extra stuff. We don't need extra imaging time, no more extra staff, drugs, no more side effects, okay? And now all of a sudden, we're not only impacting business, but we're improving the experience of the customer, right? I just love that example. of how doing this journey mapping can ultimately impact business by improving the experience of our customer through what I showed you in that chart over longevity, right? That operating costs go down, purchase frequency goes up, ambassador, word of mouth, those type of things are all part of this. And this is the customer journey mapping and user experience isn't new to marketing, right? This isn't like, oh, we never thought of this before. This is just how we're branding it today. This is how companies are talking about it. Will we talk about it differently 10 years from now, 20 years from now? Sure, right? But this is what's popular now. This is what, marketing is morphing into, more of these specialized job titles. Even though we're doing the same stuff we've always done, it's now, hey, let's align the title with the trends of the today, make sure that we're, matching what's going on. And I hope you as a marketer, take what's going on in this lecture, which is the most trendy thing we've got, and incorporate some of it into you. When you look for job searches, start looking for some of these terms: user experience, customer journey, those type of things. Give yourself training in these areas, right? Prototyping, iterating, understanding these things, because it's part of marketing, buyer personas and doing them right, and researching and qualitative and those type of things. Make sure these things are on your resume as you get these buzzwords, put them in there. You only need to know enough to talk about it in an interview, and then they'll hire you and you'll do it the way that they tell you to do it, right? Familiarize yourself with this tool. If you Expressia, just take some time. I did one on purchasing bunk beds at RC Willey. I can't show it to you, it's proprietary to theirs, but we did a journey map using this tool with that kind of process. And we observed and we watched and we recorded and we talked to people, we asked them, and we mapped it all out, okay? So you can do that too, right? And maybe just for fun, you do an experience that you've had as the customer, right? Could you imagine you're going for a job and you pretend you're a possible customer for the company you're applying for. You do this map and you show the map to them, right? Just imagine the impact. So today, more than ever, you need to differentiate yourself. These are the trendy things that you can differentiate yourself on today quickly, because they're not different from what we've done. We're just calling them different things. Start getting those things in your vocabulary and on your resumes and in your conversations and your speech. And I think you'll find that to be very successful for you today. And I wish many of you, I hope many of you are able to find jobs, keep your jobs, and stay busy out there. And just let me know if you have any questions or any needs about school or life or work. Connect with me on LinkedIn if you haven't. And let's stay in touch. And wish you all the best. So I think that's what I've got for you. Again, I'll post all of this up for you. And I know it went fast. Sorry we didn't have time. I usually take a couple of days to go through all this. But I really just want you to get the highlights, because it's important, is to start getting vocabulary. I'm going to post a couple of other resources. One of them is this really cool. You want to instantly look. Oh, where'd it go? Oh, I open and close it. About that. Oh, I might have closed it. But it's going to be this guide. Oh, here we go. This one here. Okay, so this is going to give you tons and tons of templates about how to fill in buyer personas, journey maps. I'm going to put this up there. I hope you grab this information, grab this content from Canvas. Put this in your own, Dropbox or Google Drive or whatever you do. Make yourself instantly an expert on this stuff, because it's so new. And if you're leading in the trends, you'll look very, very worthy of understanding these type of things. Okay, so take care. We'll see you hopefully soon.